It's June 10. It's Thursday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday, June 10. Let's not skip a day because my housekeeper comes on Wednesday. And we need those rolling dervishes to come in here and clean up my mess. I've got popcorn everywhere. Yeah. Who's I? There we go. Yeah, me, myself, and I. 3 people in the studio. Studio of, in quotation marks. We've got a microphone. We've got another one over here. We've got my iPhone over here. We got an iPad over here with a count up clock. This is a what do you call it? We've been on the air 2 hours and 17 seconds, 18 seconds, 19 seconds. Yeah, that's the real clock. Right over there. It's 9:02 a.m. 9:03. There we go. We pushed the button at 9:01. We were ready. The internet was ready. Yeah, we're streaming. And for those of you that are a little unfamiliar with this simulcast, you can see up on the top the banner. It's going across the top. Starts here and goes all the way across there. It goes across all 3 social networks simultaneously. YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live, aka X. I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. The hell with it. Weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we broadcast up here from our downtown den, studio, whatever you want to call it. I hate to call it a studio because that isn't. I guess it is. It's got radio equipment and television equipment, high definition equipment. What the heck? And this microphone's the same microphone that was used by Rush Limbaugh. We had 25 million people listening to him 5 days a week in the afternoon. At the 2 o'clock hour, I believe, Eastern Time. At 25 million. At 25 million subscribers. A doctor prescribes, and you subscribe. You become a scribe. And since someone else is creating the contact, you subscribe. Anyway, you can click on my thing and subscribe. I have about, between those 3 social networks that we broadcast on every day, is about coming on 500 broadcasts. Getting close to 500. Someone asked me, well, what do you talk about? I said, hey, whatever the hell comes to mind. Right now, the LA County is a disaster. The city of Los Angeles is a frickin' disaster. The mayor is a disaster. The governor is a disaster. Karen Bass is a joke. She's been hanging around collecting money from the... she hasn't stopped any riots. She just sits on her hands. What am I going to do next? Yeah, And then it comes up with, 2 pounds of excuses after things start lighting on fire. Trump said, nope. since you're not going to dispatch your police services, we're going to dispatch the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the space, whatever the hell it takes, but these paid political ruffians are not going to take over the city of Los Angeles and burn it down. And these idiots will let it burn it down. Ask Burbank, California. Ask all those thousands of multi-million-dollar homes that got torched because the mayor and the governor would not agree on the proper water dispatchment to the southern part of its state. They got more water than Heinz got pickles. And the firemen, they run out there in harm's way and they lay out their hoses and they turn on the fire hydrant and it's empty. Who ever heard of an empty fire hydrant? I swear to God, I've never heard of an empty fire hydrant. The only empty fire hydrant I've ever seen is a fire hydrant that's laying on its side because it's being installed in a new subdivision. And there are no houses in there yet. They're putting in the paving, the drainage, and the water, and the sewer, and the fire hydrants, and the connectivity to, pipes that are this big around, 6-inch diameter pipes, cast iron pipes, high pressure water. Not in LA County, it's low pressure water. You're lucky if you have any pressure. Well, whose fault is that? You got more millionaires per square inch than anywhere except for Dubai. With all that movie money and jeez. God darn. I can write a book. I'm not going to, but it's a disgusting situation. I'm putting my business card right on top of the right on top of the United States Constitution, because right underneath, this is my identity right here. There we go. We just give you a little flash-a-rooney. There's old Jimmy Digital Imaging, and there's my logo, which I created 60 years ago, 55 years ago. Here's one of my favorite venues to photograph, and that's Royal Palm Polo. Look at my logo I got embossed in there. A few years ago, like 10 or 15 years ago, every time I tell the story, it's another 5 years later, it seems. Time flies when you're having a good time. I financed a company that manufactures credit cards. Now, who ever heard of that? What do you mean manufactures credit cards? Well, they manufacture credit cards. And you got a thin mylar layer on this one, and I'm going to peel it off. It's almost like Scotch tape. Anyway, so here you go. Look at that. Peeling that right off. There's a special mylar layer that they put on there. They bought a new machine and say, hey, you want to try out this? I said, yeah, let's try out that mylar. So now I just lost a couple of tenths of a millimeter. So now it's got a semi-gloss nature to it. There's that mylar layer is probably also on the front side of this. And since we're peeling, let's see if we can peel that off. We'll get this credit card down to nothing. Anyway, so the guy manufactures credit cards. So what happens is, let's say you go online and you fill out a application for ABC credit card, and it's a Visa card. Look at that, here we go. Peel off that Mylar label. Sir, it's only good for 14 and a half years. I don't want it. Okay. So we have taken it off front and back. Makes the card a little tiny bit thinner. Yeah. Kind of like it. I'll start scraping off the numbers and things. We'll see how that works. But anyway, so if you, let's say you went online for American Express and said, I'd like to have that credit card that's got the, where every month you send me a statement, I pay it all up. So it's really not it's a payment device. It's really not a credit card. Because at the end of the month, you got to pay it down 100%. You're not allowed to carry over a balance. That's one type of, that's how American Express always used to be. So, anyway, so you go online, you fill out your American Express application, and and they come back 27 and a half seconds later and says, Jimmy, you're approved for American Express Platinum Card, which entitles you to the following things, and it lists, 10 things, and, you get special seating in the waiting room at an airport, and other benefits. Let's make sure we have your name and address right, sir, and that's that. You'll get your credit card in about 7 to 10 days. Well, that electronic file that was created at American Express then makes a little turn and goes down to Delray Beach, a big facility in Delray Beach. Because American Express will store up, a day's worth of those people that sign up for American Express. And then every night, they send an elect file of all the files that were accumulated that day for people that are going to get a card. And the people that didn't qualify, those files go in another direction, and they get the adverse action letter. That's what they call it, an adverse action letter. We're sorry, but you're a deadbeat and you're not getting one of these. We're afraid you're not going to pay off your bill every month. No, they don't say that. But that's what they're afraid of, truth be told. So, there could be other credit reasons. They run a credit report because they are, in a sense, extending you credit for no more than 31 days. Anyway, so every night, a whole batch of files, they call it a batch, a whole batch of files, really, that's how these vocabulary words came to be, gets sent down to Delray Beach, and immediately, things start shaking at the headquarters of this company that shall go unnamed because I forget the name of the company. I know it's in Delray Beach because I visited their plant. I could research it and find out. Because they got a record of my business card. And I could get this. The only thing I'd have to change on this is my fax number has changed in the last 15 years. Yep, because I have an e-fax. My fax machine went, when I got to change my zip code. I went from 33486 to 33432. Anyway, so that's my own. So this company manufactures credit cards. So literally, they have a bunch of blanks. American Express cards. You know, it's like a sheet of 36 of them or 72 of them. You know, it's a big sheet. It's about this foot wide and about that high, and it's all got American Express, all the logos, and it's got, the gold background, and then on the reverse side of the card, it has, the mag tape, the magnetic tape thing. Yeah. Change that. It's not a sheet of cards. That's what they did with my business cards because there was no mag tape. No magnetic strip. Now they got chips and, it's a little more complicated process. But just bear with me. So it's like a huge deck of cards that goes, like 2,000 or 3,000 cards all lined up. They're all lined up in this little chute thingy. And they're blank. It's got like the platinum card and the logo on the platinum card. It's got the magnetic strip on the back. But there's no name on it. Matter of fact, the American Express, the raised, that's actually printed in the stock card, the blank. Anyway, so let's say they got 3,000 phone calls. No, let's say they got 3,000 people that qualified for new cards, or they're getting a card because the other one matured. Anyway, so American Express sends down the batch, for all the platinum cards that platinum card issuances. Is that the right word? We're issuing more than one issuances. Sounds like a word to me. I'll bet it's in Webster's unabridged. I got a dictionary big enough to hold that word. I swear to God, I got a dictionary that's like this thick. But paper dictionaries, I use that to hold the door open. Because now everything is electronic. Anyway, so American Express, this company prints up all these blanks for American Express, including a mag strip on the back. And all their little fancy language about, hey, if you lost or stolen, here's a 1-800 number. And it's American Express's 1-800 number. Whatever they've approved on the back of that card, and they got signatures of people, And it's got a chip, and which is an electronic. Those little gold contacts on the front of that card, when you slip the card in something and the thing clamps down on it, and some gold contacts tickle that the contacts on the front of that card that are absolutely flush with that blank. Yeah. Well, so when this card gets manufactured for Jimmy Photo, It goes in the machine. The American Express has assigned a number to this account. And the date of issuance and the date of expiration. All right, expiration date, month and year. Date of issuance, month and year. And that chip then gets squished, encrypted with Jimmy Photo on the front, and raised, along with the raised, number on the card. And then also on, when that card is being made, there's an appliance that fits down on top of the card and programs the chip that's on that's connected to those 6 contacts on the front of the card. Those big, it's the size of your little fingernail there, but you can see it on the card. And there are micro wires that go from those big contacts on the front. They get connected to an EPROM, EPROM, electronically programmable read-only memory, EPROM chip. So there's a little bitty chip in there. It's called an EPROM chip. And the program, the application software that is associated with American Express, with this manufacturer, here in Delray, where I got these cards made up. But we're talking about American Distress now. So it programs the EPROM chip. It embosses the card number associated with Jimmy Photo on an issue date of 6/25, the issuing month and year, and the expiration date 5/30, which would correspond to 2030. Now that's a year, huh? I want to live to 2030. That would make me 85 years old. That's sounding like old, don't you think? I'm 80. I know I'm a little old because I can't run around the building a couple times. I know I'm a little old because I sometimes run out of breath taking the trash down to the trash chute. Not 100% out of breath, but, like about 50% out of breath. I don't have to stop halfway, but I'm close to it. When I get in my front door, I feel like I'm a huffing and a puffing. Not quite, but I feel like I could. So that's a sign of mentally, ask Marilyn how I'm doing mentally. I'm still yabbity-dapping and I can talk. Yeah, and I pretty much know what the hell I'm talking about, or I don't talk about it. Yeah. Now on this little simulcast, I liken this to it's a really big. We're going to have coffee at 9 o'clock in the morning together. So we're going to go to Denny's and we're going to sit at table 27. You go in the front door and you walk straight on down, about 7 tables down, make a left turn towards the windows, and we're going to be at table 27. Section 2, table 7. aka Table 27. Section 1 is there's a countertop there, and there are like 10 stools for people to sit on a stool and sit at the countertop. And then right behind that is where the short order cook is when he's slamming out those scrambled eggs. And the ladies make the coffee. So we're having coffee together, here on Channel 10. There we are, we're Channel 10. It's not Channel 10. It's June 10. 10. June 10. It's Tuesday, June 10. Yeah, it is. Ooh, I made this label up at 4:29 a.m. Jeez, I think that's early enough. I got an early start today. There's the new portrait of our leader, President Donald J. Trump, President 47. He was President 45 and 47. I was listening to a very interesting broadcast. I'll tell you what, YouTube. If you can launch YouTube on your modern TV, you can launch programs, little application programs like YouTube or Netflix or Amazon. Excuse me. They were talking about, the Starship business. And, it's a big sucker. And if you read through all these documentation that goes through, the approval process for using Pad 39A, they have they signed a 15-year lease, I think. 15 or 20-year lease on that Pad 39A. And they're building a Starship super heavy launch station on Pad 39A and Pad 37, which is, I believe, a little bit further north on that Kennedy Space Center total facility. I don't know what the hell direction that is. It seems like it was a little bit north of Pad 39A. So 37 is north of 39. Then you have Launch Pad 40 over there. Yeah, I guess so. Because there is a Launch Pad 40 also. And they've already got stuff. They've already started building it. And you can see it's sizable. Here's a palm tree. That's a tall one. Because it's above, you got I'm going to say a 18-inch high warehouse kind of building there. And the palm tree is a good bit taller than that. I mean, this is a 400-foot tall structure that we're next to it. There's some distance between those two structures. It looks like they're together, but they're not. They're going to be. There's two of them, and they're going to have they're going to have those caliper things on there, so that they can catch. The booster comes back and gets caught by this launch stand. So it serves two purposes. It holds that sucker in place when it's getting ready to blast off. And right about the time when the engines get up to full power, it lets go and then automatically ejects some of the connections to the liquid methane is the fuel for the Starship. Liquid methane and liquid oxygen. And, the propellant, that's the vocabulary words they use. We got the propellant, and we got some pressurized gases like helium gas and nitrogen gas to push the they can't seal the tank off. It's not like they can fill it up with liquid oxygen and then put a cap on it and it's good. No, because it's like minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, let's just say minus 300. Let's just round to minus 300, which is really cold. And they have to keep it cold because if it warms up a little bit, like 20 degrees Celsius, or let's do it the other way. 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 67 degrees Fahrenheit is considered standard temperature. There's an acronym called STP. Standard temperature and pressure. That's atmospheric pressure at 0 feet above sea level at 67 degrees. That is STP, the standard temperature and pressure for a gas, a liquid, any kind of a chemical when you're dealing in the world of chemistry. And of course, when you're dealing with rocket fuels and oxidizers like LOX, liquid oxygen. Now, in order to get oxygen, which is a gas that's in our atmosphere right now, and when we take a deep breath in and out, 20% of the air that you breathe in is oxygen. It's like 19.927, whatever. It's really close to 20%. And the other 80%, it's actually not 80, it's actually 79.9317, is nitrogen. Most people don't know that. There's more nitrogen that we breathe in every day than there is oxygen. And if the oxygen level drops below 20%, your breathing rate would have to correspondingly increase proportionately with the lack of oxygen. And you'd end up you're breathing in and out because there's not a lot of oxygen in your atmosphere. I don't know why that would happen, because almost anywhere you stick your head out a window, at STP, and you got oxygen at 14 pounds per square inch. That's the pressure at sea level at STP. That STP business is important, because if it's warmer than STP, if it is warmer than the standard temperature and pressure, and if you're 100 feet above sea level. So now you're not at the standard pressure because you're above sea level 100 feet. And if it is, warmer or colder than STP, those adjustments have to be made when you're trying to figure out how these two chemicals would combust. Anyway, but right now we're talking about just storage, and pumping it from a storage tank facility that's refrigerated big time to get it to minus 300 degrees. And it's in cylinders that are under pressure. So there ain't no standard pressure about that at all. Because it's high pressure, very cold, is the way liquid locks. The missile people, the rocket people, they just call it locks. And the other thing that's in our atmosphere is LN2. And the launch facility would generate LN2 as a gas which goes up on top of. In other words, when they fill up the let's say it another way. The first thing they do is they rinse out the tank. It's a brand new tank, never been used before, let's just say. So they rinse it out with liquid nitrogen, which turns into a gas real fast, and just scours all over inside that beautiful cylinder with a rounded top and a rounded bottom. They open up a valve over here on the bottom. The nitrogen comes in on the top. And pushes out all the other gases. Yeah. My computing device just asked me if I wanted to turn on the Wi-Fi telephone service, and I said no. So you rinse out the cylinder with liquid nitrogen. That's why you have LN2 tanks at a launch facility, because there we go. That's my third iPad asked me that question. The whole operating system is asking questions about whether you want to receive calls on your iPad using the Wi-Fi telephone connectivity, in which someone calls 416-1100, it'll come in the chipset, of your iPad or your iPhone, or it'll come through the Wi-Fi in case the cell system is down. If you're wondering why there are two ways of getting a audio connection. Anyway, that launch tower is going to be, it could be upwards of 600 feet tall. The launch facility that's being built off in the Kennedy Cave Center is taller than the two that you see at Boca Chica, Texas. They're making ready for their even taller spaceship. They're up to like version 12, of their spaceship and their booster combination. They number the boosters, and they number the spaceships. And they're up to booster number 35, and the spaceships, like 14 or 15 of them. the early few blew up when they were testing the engines. So if you're wondering where some of the others went. Yep. That's you want to play in the world of rocket ships, you better have some pretty deep pockets. And Elon Musk has got some pretty deep pockets. He's also a bit of a hothead. We've come to learn, you know, and Trump ain't no pushover either. But I wouldn't call Trump a hothead. I would call him very heady. And you do not want to pin him down, you know, because he's gonna get on his feet really fast, and you better get out of the way. So if you're gonna end up in some kind of a fisticuff with Trump, my granddaddy told me you don't want to hurt a king. You got to kill the king. Yes, sir. Do not hurt the king. And unfortunately, Trump, you know, Elon took a shot at Trump, and Trump basically said, "Settle down, boy. You don't know who you're dealing with. You think you do, but you've never been on the wrong side of El Presidente." So they threw a couple of shots at each other, and no problem. We'll find some other way to get to space. You're not the only game in town there, jerkweed. You know, and then Elon Musk's come back, and he comes on with what he's got to say, and oh boy, we got quite a bunch of yickety yakety. So Trump almost decommissioned his dragon. You don't want to do that, Stoopy, because you're the only reliable way to get back and forth to the U.S., to the International Space Station, other than going to Putin and say, can I bum a ride to you the next time you go to the space? You know, right now we're putting the pressure on Putin, and now we're going to ask him for a seat in his Soyuz space thingy, so you can put a couple of our guys up there in the space station and bring a couple back, and they need some supplies, and we're going to we ship over some supplies, you know, over in the Moscow area, and then you don't mind just launching this stuff up, do you? Oh yeah, that'll be $300 million. So then they got to transfer $300 million US dollars to the Russian Space Agency so that they can launch Billy and Jimmy up to the International Space Station for their 3 or 4 month stay up there, and then you bring a couple back because they can't stay more than 3 or 4 months, or else, pardon the expression, the shit starts falling off. Yeah, I mean, organs start, swelling up, and, when you become an astronaut, they push you and they shove you and they spin you and they do all kinds of things to see, if you're gonna fall apart, during blast off. So they put you through all kinds of tests, and they got probes here and they got probes there, and you got wires on your fingers, and God knows what else. What do they call it, around your chest, and measuring your breathing rate and your depth of your breathing, and I mean, they got all this statistical data on these astronauts. Well, by the time they decide, okay, Jimmy, Photo, you qualify as being an astronaut. Well, by the time you get, you graduate from high school, and then you graduate your undergraduate, and you take an engineering degree in aeronautical engineering, or or astronomy, or electrical engineering, or aerodynamics, or all of the above in your undergraduate work, and you got your PhD in aeronautical whatever. By the time you're done with that, you're 30. Well, you got a 30-year-old body, you've been living on the planet at STP. Remember STP? Standard temperature and pressure at sea level? Yes, sir. When you say STP, that means a lot. Now, most regular citizens of the planet don't know what that means. But when you're a chemical engineering kind of a guy, you specialize in biochemistry, by the way. Yep, and biology. I took all the biology class. I decided I was going to be a pre-med student. You're supposed to have all this stuff figured out when you're in 6th grade. I didn't figure it out until I was a sophomore in college. I don't know where the hell I was going. I decided to major in chemistry. Sir, what are you going to major in? Let's see. A, B, C. Let's stop at chemistry. I'm looking down through all the possible degree programs from A to Z, and I stopped at C. I should have stopped at B, or bugology, biology, biochemistry. That's what I did. So by the time you get these advanced degrees, that astronauts typically have, you're 30, 28, 26, 27, 28, 30, depending on, how much college training you decided to endeavor. The line to stardom is not a straight line up. Sometimes a little zig and a little zag here and there. So let's just say 30 by the time you get accepted into NASA's space program as an astronaut cadet or trainee or whatever they call a astronaut wannabe. When you move out of academia into government NASA. Yeah, jeez. It's always scary when you're busting your butt so you can blast off on one of these machines. You're the lowest bidder on a government contract. And the lowest bidee. Because you're the one that's going to be sitting in that thing when they light the candle. And they literally light the candle and that thing blasts off. Oof. And the combustion chamber in those engines run around 300 bar. You know what a bar is? A bar is a barometric pressure at STP. There's that STP again, I'm telling you. When you're in the engineering world, you always have to have some of these acronyms right on the tip of your tongue, because the Raptor engines run at about 300 bar. Now a bar, let's get my trusty calculator out here, is, you're going to clear the thing here, 14.7 pounds per square inch. All right, at STP. You always got to add that into everything, it's because you could mean something else. So you kind of have to pay attention, because, when you're talking between people that are talking about all this precision stuff, in the space industry. They add all these acronyms to things that they say, and they have very important meanings. So what is 14.7 psi? There's another acronym. Pounds per square inch. 14.7 psi at STP. Yes, sir. That's how they say it. I swear to God, if you hang around these guys, they whip out those acronyms so fast. You better have your acronym dictionary in your back pocket. They're going to wear out every letter of the alphabet. 14.7 psi at STP. That's the pressure. So if you blow up a balloon, let's do it that way. You got a nice little balloon, rubber balloon, and you blow it up to about 8 inches in diameter, and then you tie a knot in the end of it. So now you got a balloon that's about 8 inches in diameter, and you can like push it up, and it will blow up, and and then it will come back and settle down in your hands, and you can push it up, and it'll go up, So at STP, the internal pressure of that balloon is no longer 14.7. It's slightly higher than that, because you had to blow on that balloon. You had to put pressure in there. You had to blow air into that balloon to fill it up. And if you remember about blowing up balloons, just that first burst of air that you have to push into that balloon is really hard, and then it becomes easier as the balloon gets a little bit bigger. So that's the pressure, the additional pressure you have to put on the inside of that balloon to make up for the elasticity of the rubber itself. Because the balloon was a strip of rubber about the size of this pen. It's closed on one end and it's open on the other end, and you blow it up and it blows up to 8 inches, and then we're going to tie a knot in it. So let's just say it's, the internal pressure of that balloon is slightly higher than 14.7 psi at STP. Now, if I increase the temperature to, remember, STP is around 67 degrees at sea level. Okay. So, at 67 degrees at sea level, the pressure pushing on the outside of that balloon is 14.7 pounds per every square inch of surface area all around that whole balloon. All right. Now inside that balloon, it's probably, this is just pulling a number out of my fanny. Let's say it's 15.7 psi. It's 1 pound per square inch greater than the external pressure being applied to the exterior of that balloon at STP. Okay? And that's why that rubber expanded, and now it's stable. It stopped expanding because you stopped blowing in it. All right? And let's just say it's 15.7 psi at STP when you tied the knot in that balloon. And so, now it's at equilibrium because it's 1 pound per square inch greater on the inside than it is on the outside, And that is the pressure that is necessary because of, to make that rubber, let's just say it's rubber, to expand out to about 8 or 10 inches in diameter. And that's your balloon. Now a basketball, you got to sort of pin into like a rubber nozzle looking thing in the side of a basketball or a football. Let's just say basketball for the time being. You stick that needle in, you screw that needle onto a pump, and you pump up that basketball to 14.7 pounds. Now that is a pressure in addition to the 14.7 pounds per square inch we already realize on the surface of the planet at STP. So they want positive pressure of 14.7 pounds pushing on the outside of those balls. So they're actually looking at 28 pounds per square inch. In theory. But the pressure gauge on the pump says 14.7. That's it. You pump it up to that, and it gives that basketball a very specific size, because the more you pump it up, the slightly larger diameter it would be, and that will louse up everybody that's been practicing with exactly the same size basketball with the same bouncy when you bounce it on the floor. And that is about a 14, I forget what it was 14.7, I believe. One pressure, one bar. That's where we get the bar. So when you pressurize a basketball, you're pressing it up to 1 bar. Same thing with a football. Pump it up to 1 bar. A bar equals 14.7 pounds per square inch. That just happens to be a bar. B-A-R. The first few letters of barometric pressure. Yep, that's how they got bar. And the reason why I bring it up, this whole thing about bar, is the chamber pressure inside one of them rockets, we're circling back to the rocket now, is about 300 bar. So we're going to multiply that by 300, because we're going to convert that into pounds per square inch. The chamber pressure is 4,410 psi. Now the chamber inside that Raptor engine is about this big around, and it's 4,000 pounds per square inch for every square inch, and the inside diameter of this, it's about the size of a softball. And out on one end there's an opening that connects to that nozzle, that big nozzle you see on the bottom end of a rocket engine. So when those gases are ported into the rocket chamber, they ignite it, and it blasts off. It's on ground. It blasts. We're doing our engine test. And when that engine gets up to full throttle, and they can throttle it back and forth to a certain degree, so it comes down to 270 bar instead of 300 bar. It's probably a 20% throttle up, throttle down. I'm totally pulling that out of my ass because I don't really know. But, it's got to be 20 or 30% variation on the amount of energy that, because when you ignite that sucker, it's throwing out a shitload of thrust. 280,000 pounds of thrust, all right? And it goes up to 310 pounds, so you can throttle it down and all that kind of stuff. When these rockets go up, straight up into space, about 70 or 80 seconds into flight, there's a period of max Q. That is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that is experienced by the rocket ship as a whole as it is crashing through the speed of sound. And when you go from subsonic to supersonic, at that instant, it's not an instant, it's a short duration in time of maybe 5 or 10 seconds when it goes from subsonic to supersonic. And those words are, as soon as it's going faster than the speed of sound, which is a defined number, at a certain elevation, at a particular elevation. So maximum aerodynamic pressure forces are experienced just at the time the rocket ship goes supersonic. And you'll hear them say, after they get through max Q, we're supersonic. That's what they say. That's rocket speech for we're going faster than the speed of sound. Yeah. So that's where we get bar from. 300 bar is 4,410 pounds per square inch. When they throttle down, so there's an awful lot of thrust. With the rocket ship, that's not the Starship. The regular SpaceX launch vehicle uses 9 Merlin engines. You got 8 engines surrounded by one in the middle and 8 around it. There are 9 engines. They call them Merlin engines. MERLIN. There's a reason code for that. I don't recall the reason why they call them Merlin engines, but it's a particular engine, and it's actually it is a, let's say, a granddaughter. If we're going to assign a female name to this beautiful engine, it's a granddaughter of an engine that was actually created by some engineers in Moscow, in Russia, for their space program. And that's where, that's where Elon Musk got some of his early designs. He bought a couple of ICBMs. He goes over to Moscow and says, can I buy one of those ICBMs from you? I'm a young smartass from Silicon Valley, and I need to work on one of them ICBMs because I need the engine, and I want to, use your design and maybe jiggle it a little bit. And that's what he did. He started jiggling a couple launch vehicles that Russia was using for some of its ICBMs. And depending on whether it was a big ICBM or a small one, they had different engine designs, depending on what kind of a ICBM it was and how much range it would have. It would reach across 10,000 miles, lobbing some big, bag of rocks to come hit people on the head over here in the United States. Or they put some big bomb in there, But that's what he did. He bought an ICBM or two so that he could study them in the United States, in Texas, actually, I believe. Yeah. So he learned his early rocketeering from the Russians, of all places. Oh boy. It was just a commercial project, He bought something that was already running and working. It's already gone through testing, and it already blew up a whole bunch of engines testing, to get tweaking it here and there. Engine design is pretty exotic stuff. It's when you take it apart, it's simple. It's simple in its design, because you inject the fuel into the chamber by some method of injecting, other than just the pressure of the fuel that's sitting in the fuel tank. Early designs, that's what it was. The external temperature of the tank would warm up a little bit, and it would create incredible pressure, which would be vented outside, your rocket ship, waiting for blast off, which is on some kind of a time schedule. So you shut the vent off, and then the only place for the liquid propellant to come out, because it starts to boil. The boiling point is, let's say, 290 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit. So you got to keep that at 300 degrees, minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit, or else it starts to boil. The water boils at 112 degrees at STP. Now, if you're up in the Rocky Mountains and you're 6,000 feet above sea level, that is not STP. That's 6,000 feet above sea level. And you have to put that formula in. You have to put that value in. And I don't know if you notice on a package of, some sensitive pastas like farina and some of these really tall, small little pasta pieces that are in some of these breakfast things. It'll say on the package, if you live in the Rocky Mountains or someplace where you have, you're above 5,000 feet of elevation, water boils at like 209 degrees Fahrenheit rather than 212. So the temperature of boiling water in the Rocky Mountains up at 5,000 or 6,000 feet above sea level, might be 290 degrees instead of, 192 degrees instead of 212 degrees. Water boils at 212, right? So let's say it boils at 200 degrees at a certain altitude. So if the temperature of the water is boiling at a lower temperature, then you might need to add a little time on how long you're going to cook that pasta in the water. because you're not at STP. You're high altitude. I mean, you could be, in theory, you could be 10 or 11,000 feet above sea level. Well, water boils somewhat below 212 if you're at 10,000 feet above sea level. I don't know what the equation is offhand. It's a simple equation. You can calculate it. Let's see. Let's see if my iPad can tell us. Hey Siri, at 5,000 feet above sea level, what is the temperature of boiling water?
I found this on the web.
Okay. There we go. How does high altitude affect the boiling point of water? The basics. The basic physics. There you go. How about that? At 5,000 feet above sea level, the boiling point is 203 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like 9 degrees lower. And look at this. At 10,000 feet above sea level, water boils at 194 degrees. So, it's, almost 10 degrees cooler. Here's a little table of values right here, the boiling point of water. This is the rightmost column is in degrees Celsius. Water boils 100 degrees Celsius, exactly 100. And it freezes at exactly 0 degrees Celsius. And then all the other degrees are marked off equally, on the thermometer. Whereas the Old English method of Fahrenheit, Mr. Fahrenheit decided that at sea level, at STP, water boils at 212 degrees, exactly. And look at that, at 5,000 feet, it boils at 203.8. At 10,000 feet, 194.3 degrees. At 15,000 feet, it's 184.5 degrees. So that's quite, it's 15 plus 10, that's 25, 20, that's 27 degrees cooler. So when you're way up in the mountains, and about 15,000 feet would be about way up in the mountains as you can, exists on this planet. Yeah, you'd be right here. There you got that little cylinder, and it's keeping. Look, he's got icicles hanging off his fingers. No, not Jimmy. I'm not one of those mountain climber guys. No. I get in the gondola to get to the top of the mountain with my skis on. Yeah, snow skis, one on each foot, by the way, not one of these boards. I'm just speed reading this article here. Okay. So when you have anyway, so you got 300 bar inside of the chamber of the Merlin rocket engine, or the Raptor engine for sure. I think the Merlin engine is like a 290 bar instead of 300 bar. That's a little bit good. They might tweak those engines a little bit. 300 bar is about the high pressure that those engines can run at without them exploding. You know, those rocket engines, I call it a controlled explosion. Because it's constantly exploding because the fuel and the oxidizer are being pumped into the blasting chamber. So it's a constant state of ignition with the gases forcing out of the only opening there is, which is the bottom part of that engine, which is then connected to this funnel, which allows for the gases to be expanding. So that's why it has that parabolic funnel shape. So as the hot gases move out of the ignition chamber, and as it moves down the engine, or down towards the opening, or over towards the opening, if it's laying on its side or whatever. So when it's igniting, it's about 300 bar, which is 4,400 psi. There you go, 4410. Let's just round down to 4,400 psi at STP. Yes. Now, when you get up to higher altitudes, remember they're going into space. Now you'll notice they have those Raptor engines with the big parabolic antennas, those big parabolic openings at the bottom end of those rocket engines. And the big ones, you have big ones, and then you have ones with short parabolic openings from the blast chamber of the rocket engine. And the shorter ones are when you're going to ignite the engines in the vacuum of space. They don't need those big fluted parabolic chambers for those gases to expand. The engines can do with the smaller parabolic reflectors. So if they're going to ignite the engines in the vacuum of space, it's usually the engines that have the smaller, because actually if you ignite the engines with the bigger parabolic chambers, they tend to have a little less thrust in the vacuum of space. So they've optimized that, and because you don't have the 14.7 pounds per square inch of pressure on the outside of those parabolic flutes. I'm probably using all the wrong vocabulary words, but you get the picture. And if you look at a picture of the underneath of the spaceship booster, there are 30. They've upped that to 35 engines now. I've been reading in these reports that they're supplying to the FAA. So you got 3 engines surrounded by 10 and then surrounded by 20. So they're 35. Well, I think they're getting to 35. I think they're at 33. I think they have 3 engines surrounded by 10, surrounded by 20. So if the inside ring and the middle are all firing, there are 13 engines. I saw a configuration of one of the Starship boosters, and it seemed like it had 5 engines surrounded by 10, surrounded by 20. 5, 10, 20, yeah. So it was 35 engines. So that may be a future version of the booster. The booster is going to get a little longer, a little taller, I should say. It's going to get a little taller. And it may get a couple more Raptor engines in it to give it a little extra thrust to accommodate a slightly larger payload, as they say. Anyway, so this is a drawing of pad 39A and 36. Pad 36 and pad 39A. There is a certain amount of structure that's in place that will be maintained, and then are adding to it because they have a bigger launch mount system, and the way the thrust deflector. There's the launch integration tower, and the launch mount is going to go right where that green is, where that blue is. There is an existing tower there. The current rockets are taken off from this launch stanchion there. But the Starship is going to be, the launch mount is going to be there, and the integration tower is going to be right there. The storage tanks to shower the, put a million gallons of water, into the, basically trying to cool down all those gases coming out of the bottom end of the rocket while it's at sea level. Once it gets up 300 or 400 feet, it's like a blast furnace. All that exploding gas. It's liquid methane and liquid oxygen. So here you can see LOX storage facilities, liquid nitrogen, that's LN2. There's 2 atoms of nitrogen in a molecule of nitrogen. That's why they call it N2. It should be a little bit of a 2. It should be a, you got superscripts up here, like 3 squared. But when you're talking about the number of atoms in a molecule, that should be a little 2 right down on the below. It should be a subscript. But for basic math here, we'll just call it LN2. Liquid nitrogen storage facility. We have a natural gas area. We have a methane liquefier in pink. And we got a liquid methane storage facility in red. So you got pink and red. You got black and white. So that's how that whole launch facility looks like. A lot of infrastructure. And if I was watching they're doing some improvements to the equipment in Boca Chica, Texas, and their launch facilities for the first 9 blast-offs they had at Boca Chica with the Starship. The next test, I think, will be in June, later June, will be test 10. Test 9 was almost successful. They couldn't quite get the booster worked fine, but the spaceship didn't work fine. They had liquid, gas leak here and there, so they lost all attitude control. There's no backup system for that. The door didn't open for the Pez dispenser to slide out the satellites. The SLC Pad 37. That's what I thought. So they're talking about the millions of gallons of wastewater that this will create. You read these are just sections of reports that they're supplying the FAA, and because NASA is basically collecting rent. I guess it's the lease payments, because they've leased these things for like 20 years, and they're spending. SpaceX is spending hundreds of millions of dollars improving these launch pads, and you can't walk away with that stuff. So once you build it up, that's the ultimate infrastructure is permanent. You can't walk away with that cement. Yeah. So they got the National Guard, they got the Army, they got the Air Force, they got 1,000 Marines they're trucking into LA, because the governor's just he's sitting on his hands not doing anything, and so's the mayor. They're just sitting around politically trying to figure out what they can do so that they remain politically popular. Well, they just blew it, because Trump stepped in and said, hey, you're destroying private property, and I'm going to go in there and protect my government buildings. That's the clause in these agreements that they have. We are a federal republic of states, and the states are supposed to take care of themselves. And if they need things, they ask the government for help. Of course, not California. They just let it burn, Jeez. They are really a little slow on the switch. Well, Trump says, You're not gonna. There's gonna be no graffiti. There's gonna be no firebombing anywhere near our government facilities. We're protecting the federal courts. We're protecting other federal offices that associated in the South and Southern California. So it's not going to be any of that shenanigans. And in order to make sure those federal buildings are safe, we're going to snuff out. This is not, the right of free speech. Does not mean you burn and destroy public and private property. Period. And they've, burnt a couple of cars, and you just don't decide I'm going to burn this car. Who the hell gave you the right to do that? Nobody. So they're going to have to stop doing that. Yeah, it's kind of like pretty basic stuff. And the governor is not doing anything to protect. He should be calling the United States government saying, hey, I need help in protecting your government offices and your government and your courts, and your federal prisons. So you need to bring in your National Guard to protect, and I think Pete Hegseth is, he's in there for a couple of thousand, Defense Department, military people, Army, Marines. Yeah, I think let me see, hey, Mr. President, how about if I send 700 Marines from one of our local Marine barracks in Southern California? So that's what's showing up today to strengthen, and you just snuff this stuff out, period. And you get in there with big water cannons and you put out the fires, and then you leave them there, and you basically, with a PA, you walk around the streets and say, you want to rock and roll and carry a few signs around, fine. Don't come here with Molotov cocktails and bombs and blowtorches, because we're going to water cannon you flat up against one of these buildings and give you a shower that you've never had before. They have these crowd control RBs, if you will. You look at some of these TV shows, movies. Oh, here comes the RB. Yeah, Nakatomi Tower. Nakatomi. Good morning, America, from Boca Raton. That's what we woke up this morning to at 6:33 a.m. You can see the time on the very top. I can push up on the picture, and there you get some EXIF data. EXIF. This is file data that's written into the header. There's a when you create a picture file, when you take a picture, and I took a picture with my iPhone 16 Pro Max. I took a JPEG picture. You can see right there, JPEG. And I had my telephoto lens on, fully expanded to 120 millimeters. The aperture of that lens is f2.8, which is amazing. Well, this little tiny thing, in the cameras. I mean, you talk about micro cameras. Oy. The ISO setting was 50, which is the speed of the imager, which is, real high resolution, low speed on the ISO. The millimeters is 120, f2.8, and it was captured at 1/700th of a second. The speed of the electronic shutter speed is the equivalent of 1/736th of a second. It's variable, and it depends on the exposure that the metering system of that particular lens has decided. And it is a 10 megapixel picture. 10 megapixel. It was 12. I trimmed it to 10. I took off some of the bottom. I took off some of the top to have the right aspect ratio for broadcast. Yeah. So that's all right there in the EXIF data. It tells you exactly where you can see the location. It's spotted it on a map with the GPS system that's embodied in the camera. Oops, there's the picture. There you go. I'm going to say done, a little X up there. So the camera was facing east from exactly the top part of that R. Is where it was. You can see there's a little dot. And if we touch that picture, I'll do it again. You get a detailed map. You see Chops Lobster Bar? You see the L on the lobster? That's where Jimmy is. Right even with that bottom edge of the picture. Looking east. We're 8 stories above Chops. So, about 100 feet above sea level. That's not STP. That is slightly lower pressure because of our elevation. 100 feet above sea level. And you got Patsy's Pizzeria. You got Hyatt Place. You can see where Flanagan's is. That's sort of a favorite spot of ours. And Mia Rosebud is right in that the ground floor of the Bank of America building. Mia Rosebud. Oh, it's not on here as far as an actual captioned restaurant. Mateo's, no. I didn't have a good experience. You know, when you don't have a good experience or two, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Literally. Casa d'Angelo. There's a nice Italian. See, Trattoria Romano. Oh my God, is that good? Ooh. Oh, there it is. There's Mia Rosebud. It didn't pop up because of me expanding my... You know, you can expand or not expand. Pinch and unpinch. So I unpinched it right. There's Mia Rosebud. Right there. Near Bank of America. It's in that building. Right above the ROY in Royal Palm Road. Yeah. They have like indoor and outdoor. Nice big outdoor covered dining area and large. Well, I like the place. I like the way it's lit. So far, I like everything about the place. I've sat at the bar and had a couple of cocktails at the bar. Liked the bar. Liked the wait staff is, the bartenders and everybody. Very, very pleasant. Nice. If you're going to spend $300 dinner for 4 people, $330 with tip, roughly. It's got to be good. And my first impression, literally my first impression, we had dinner there a couple of weeks ago, it was magnificent. I had linguine with clams, which I will have again. I think I'll have the same damn dish again. It was really good. But I have to ask for an extra one of those little containers of juice. You need whatever they think they give you the regular juice at. You need another whole darn it, it's with a T. It's a T word. Tavern. It's anyway. I need 6 more ounces of sauce. It's linguine with clams, and it comes in like a clam gravy sauce. With seasoning and so forth. Magnificent. Tavern. Trying to think of the name of that thing. It has a little handle on it, and they pour it like this. It holds the size Tavern I want is about 7 or 8 ounces of extra juice. And if they don't have an 8-ounce Tavern, they me 2 5s. I want about 8 ounces of juice. The pasta absorbs that the clam sauce. The pasta absorbs that the clam sauce that comes with linguine with clams. And if you don't get enough sauce, by the time you get to the bottom of your dish, it's dry as a bone. So if you get about 7 ounces of that clam sauce, by the time you get to the bottom of it, all that juice will be absorbed by the pasta, which makes for some magnificent pasta. I actually don't care about the clams. When they make the dish, they're all, I would call the kitchen staff is all exercised about the quality of the clams, which, of course, you want that to be good. Quality clams are magnificent. But it's the clam sauce, the clam juice gravy. Let's call it that. It's thin. It's not like, where you would have a thickening agent of some sort, like flour or something. No. It's a thin, light clam sauce. And they make a marvelous one of that. It's a $30 dish, heck. I make it at home. I have the clamshells. I've saved clamshells. I got bags of clamshells up above my range. So if I ever make a dish like that, I've got the clam shells that you throw in. You throw that in the pot that you do to make the clam sauce, which you basically buy, a bunch of bottles of the clam juice, and you add some Italian seasoning to it. You saute some garlic and butter first, then you put the clam juice in, And then you add some Italian seasoning, and that makes your clam sauce. And then and then when you cook your clams, you steam them right in that clam sauce, or you throw the clams right into that clam sauce pot with a strainer. And you cook the clams until they open up. And then you pull the clams out. With the strainer that they're in a strainer, you pull the whole strainer out, and then you got your cooked clams. You got the clam sauces remaining in the pot. And you ladle that out into your serving dish, and you make a nice little mound with your al dente cooked pasta, and surround it with the cooked clams. The ones that didn't open, you throw away, because they are dead clams. If they don't open, you don't want them. Yeah, they open up if they're live clams. Yo, get me out of here, it's hot, the water's hot. That's about what it is. They're screaming their brains out. It's a fast death, because you put them right in boiling clam juice. It's like throwing lobsters in boiling water. Anyway, Mia Rosebud, that's going to be my Father's Day dinner a day or two after Father's Day. They asked me where I wanted to go. I said, Mia Rosebud. We ate there with Bill Morris and his wife. A delightful dinner for 4. Nice conversation and marvelous dinner. Elaine Morris got linguine with clams also. Until when you like that dish, I just keep getting it. There's other things you can get on the menu, which is spectacular. I just have this thing with linguine with clams. Excuse me while I clear my throat. I've been yakking here continuously for 1 hour and 48 minutes. So I'm entitled to be a little raspy. Anyway, we're looking at the excess of a picture. I can put it in 3D mode, and we can go, and then we can do this, put it in satellite view. There we go. Now you can see from where I took that picture, facing east, and giving you that 3D view of what it looks like in about 1,000-foot elevation. Looking east. And Mia Rosebud is right in the first floor of this. Where's my dot? It's right here. The 150 building. That's the Bank of America building right there. I turn right in. Funny, you don't see the Bank of America sign. You used to be able to see the Bank of America sign on a building. We can't see it anymore. This is my favorite condo project of pretty much the 30 years I've been financing buildings like that. I give that one, Bill Morris, my friend, built it, developed it, designed it, got it permitted, and built it at $7 million under budget, on and early. Delivered it early and under budget. How about that? He's the only developer that has done it. And this is the largest building ever built in downtown Boca Raton. Is one big unified building. Palmetto Place, it's called. They must have been working on the pool. The pool looked empty in the shot. They don't date these. This is Google stuff. But I mean, it's amazing here. I'm looking down the street and went from my apartment, which is right there above Chops. I look right down that street. Or I can look up that street. Right, yeah, I can look that way. There we go. So I'm right actually around the corner of that building. This gives the right perspective from where the apartment is. It's 8 stories above Chops. That'd be my balcony. If I can flatten that out a little bit more, I can't. I can go this way. There we go. That arrow is pointing right at my balcony right now. So hanging over that balcony, I look right up that street, or I look right down that street. Magical. Yep. Google Maps. Yeah, see, this building isn't even built yet. This one is. This is the next phase right here. It's actually 2 buildings. You got a middle building and another one just like this, a mirror image going in here. Big. So that's like a 600 unit condo project called Alina. It borders the whole balance of the golf course. You got some older condo buildings, on the golf course there. A couple empty lots, new construction. That's your downtown Boca Raton area right there. You got office buildings, you got a couple of hotels. They're about ready to add a whole bunch of stuff all in this big area right in the middle of that screen. They're going to have some public hearings on that. Overhead projection stuff, because the city council has to vote on it and it's up for the public to comment. It's a magnificent project. All right, let's X out of that. It's all from the XF data. Anyway, good morning. Good morning, America. Yeah. It's June 10th. I got my new carbonator from Arca, A-A-R-K-A. I showed you that yesterday. I returned the other one yesterday. I got the new one on Sunday. Or I should call it the replacement one on Sunday. And I returned the defective one on Monday. The CO2 wouldn't come out of it. You'd push the handle down and nothing come out. I checked the hoses and everything, no soap. So I replaced the 7-year-old hose with a new hose, and I got the replacement carbonator. It's all hooked up, works perfectly fine now. Super, got a lot of carbonation. Have to be careful with that handle. Matter of fact, I'm going to get the manual out and see what the suggestions are on the use of that handle. It carbonates very quickly. All right, we've looked at the Space Center because we were talking about it. There's something I wanted to just mention to you. Oh, here, I got just since I'm looking at it. The U.S. Open, they start, they have their practice round tomorrow. So they're all flying in or driving in or whatever into Oakmont Country Club area in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. This is the scorecard. Championship par 71. 7,427 yards. A slope of 150, which is fast. Super fast greens. And a rating of 78.4. So, last week, we were looking at, scores at, minus 18 under par for 4 rounds and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you're going to see that kind of, way under par stuff. This golf course is long and treacherous. The 8th hole is a 293-yard par 3. Wow. And they call that the 11th handicap hole. That means 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You got 8 more holes that are more difficult than that one. Whew. On the back 9, you got, there's the par 3. Right there, 237-yard par 3, 16th hole. That's the 16th. Well, that par 3 right there is right in the middle of the ratings. It's ranked, it's the 11th handicap hole. The number 1 handicap hole is the hole number 3. Par 4. 467-yard par 4. We'll have to see here's the course, how it looks. I guess the holes are long and skinny. And a lot of sand and stuff. Difficult course. You got the club gift shop. That's where Maryland would be. Right in there. U.S. Open merchandise shop. Oakmont Heights Golf Course. Oakmont Country Club. It borders the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And you got I-95, this is I-76. Pennsylvania Turnpike. It actually goes east and west, but at this particular leg of it, it comes in from the east and then goes up, and then continues on its westward, take through the rest of Pennsylvania. So as it's passing through Oakmont, it actually swerves north. Has a Google search on that. Here's a map where you can see the red dot is Oakmont Country Club. There's a street map so you can see in relationship to New Jersey, Philadelphia, Allentown, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Ohio, Akron, West Virginia. You get the Shenandoah National Park, and you can get an idea of where this thing is situated. There's probably 35 million people that live in the jurisdiction of this map I'm showing you right here. There's probably 30 million people that live all over, up and down the coast and over into Pennsylvania. There are a lot of people living in them there hills. Yeah. It's nice and green. You can see Niagara Falls up top. This is a screenshot. I just popped the screenshot when I was looking at Google Maps. Looking up, where is Oakmont exactly in relation to the rest of the world? There it is, straight south of Erie, Pennsylvania. You see Buffalo, New York way up there, and Niagara Falls. Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio. I had a job with Marine Midland Bank. I should have taken it. Silly me. Okay. The ugly side of weight loss drugs. Rotten breath, damaged teeth, and dry mouth. Interesting. I'm using Ozempic. 2 milligrams once a week. You turn this little knob where the guy's finger is, right below where the button on the top is. You push that button and that pushes this syringe and this whole I don't have an electronic pointer, but this cylinder there holds 4 small injections. With that needle is so skinny with that little drip on there, you can't hardly feel it. I swear to God, you just stick that in and push the button, and it gives you an injection. And then you unscrew that hypodermic needle, throw it away, and use a fresh one for next week. This would be 1 month's supply. Semaglutide. Semaglutide. There's 4 injections in there. And you turn this knob until that 0 goes to 2. That's what it looks like. You just stick it in this, a little above your belt line in your stomach. And it was designed for diabetic patients to stabilize the blood sugar. So, so if you weren't, properly digesting your blood sugars, Ozempic manages that so that your body produces the right amount of insulin so that your blood sugar, your A1C, which is like the average of your blood sugars, you want your A1C below 6. When I started with Ozempic, my blood sugar, my A1C, had gotten as high as 11. It's supposed to be 5.5. So when you run, the blood sugar is that high. And I was taking insulin for a couple of years. And, it's, a half hour before you eat, you got to give yourself, a shot of insulin. That's all there is to it, which is no big deal. I did it for 3 or 4 years until Ozempic came out. And I said, Doc, let's give this a shot. Literally. I'm experienced in giving myself injections, so this will be no problem at all. 1 shot a week? Well, I've been taking 4 shots a day. A shot before each meal and 1 in the evening with a late night snack. Yeah, and if I didn't, my blood sugar would shoot up like crazy. Instead of like 70 or 90 or 100 on the Richter scale, it'd get up to like 250. But when you have this stuff and you track your blood sugar, it's unbelievable. It brings it right in under 100, and it stays very stable. And you can see when you have your meals, it comes up and it comes back down. It goes up a little bit, comes back down. But your blood sugar becomes it stabilizes your blood sugar, like in a very good way. The ancillary benefit is you lose a little fatty tissue. I was 194 when I started Ozempic, and then now I'm at 172. Fully dressed. Like when you walk in a doctor's office, you don't get naked. They just take you with your shoes on and everything. Your pocket, your belt, your wallet. I am 172, fully dressed. Not with a jacket, not with a coat on. Shirt, pants, shoes, socks. Pockets full. Not that much. 5 ounces of stuff in the pockets. But, it all adds up. 5 ounces here, 5 ounces there, it's a pound, It's like save $1 billion here and $1 billion there. Pretty soon, you're saving some money. It used to be dollars, $10, $100. $1 million here, $1 million there, all of a sudden, you're saving real money. Well, now you use the word billions because the overall budget says trillions. Order of magnitude. An increase of a factor of 10. I'll tell you what, these Democrats they're like defending the bad guys. I mean, there's 2 things. They're defending the people we're trying to deport. We want, everyone is supposed to have their day in court. Bullshit. They don't get, they get a day in court. They get a day in the processing court for deportation. And the judge issues a deportation order, or he rules on asylum. And these people that jumped aboard, they're not asylum. When they caravan through 3 or 4 different countries, they're not worried about their, being captured by their government and tortured. That's a bunch of malarkey. You get a court date, 4 or 5 years in advance. Fine. Here's your court date. And, you go back to Mexico and you can wait for your court date. But you're not waiting in this country. You come in the front door, you apply through your embassy, the U.S. Embassy in your country of origin. The country in which you have your passport, your papers. These guys don't even have any papers. I've got my papers. I've got Maryland's papers. I'll show you right here. It's a brand new passport. It's bound up in this little, everything's got some kind of a binder on it. I guess I should turn the lights up a little bit. There we go. So you can see the passport. There it is. Get it out of this case to make it easier to show. They're all ready for a bunch of visas. Let's go travel. The difference between the passport 10 years ago and now, here's the front cover, and inside the front cover is the United States seal, and it's got a little and you can feel them embossing kind of a, and the page is like laminated right in the book. So it's an interesting application on how they do that. Make it more difficult to counterfeit. There's my picture, and you know they got you see the odd reflection right there with like a measurement, almost like a, and the expiration date is raised. That 2034, December 15th, 2034. It was issued 16th of December 2024, which is 6 months ago. My birth date is raised. I can feel it. James Lawrence Wilson. The passport number is raised. It's printed here. Now, is it embossed on every page? It is. Is it holes? It is. So the passport number, there it is. It's drilled in. Right there, you see that. You can barely see it with the lighting. But it's a whole bunch of dots, and it's drilled through every page of this 50-page, 15, 48, 49, 50. Yeah. It's a 50-page book.
It's 11:15.
80, 90. Yeah, this will probably be my last passport. So I got a 50-page book. I figured this is going to be my last passport. I'm going to be traveling anywhere. I might as well. I'm probably not going to get another one because I'll be 90. So I'm probably not going to be traveling much at 90. Yeah. I'll be sitting on the couch next to my Optimus robot, saying, "Hey, Charles, let's watch some golf. Can you change the channel to the golf channel, please?" "Charles, would you give me another cocktail?" "Yes, sir, I'm getting one of them goddamn robots. If I gotta wash dishes, I'm getting that goddamn robot." Inside this little Vaseline thing, I might as well just leave this out like this. This is I got passport cards also. But for So I have my business card in there, so if for some reason or other I would misplace this passport, they know how to reach me. But I do have a passport card. This reddish book is Marilyn's. The blackish one is mine. Now all we got to do is figure out where the hell we're going. When we were younger and we were skiing, we went to Europe and skied in Zellamsee. This is my first driver's license. New York State driver's license. Issued in 1965. Can you believe it? June 10th, 1965. This thing was issued by the state of New York. I know the driver's license number, which is a ridiculous thing to have in my brain, but it's there. I can tell you what it is. If anyone's interested in my driver's license number, I can tell you what it is. Yeah. WO 9450 21221 692290 -0. Yep, that's my driver's license number. It's a long number. WO 9450 21221 692290. Holy crap. It's like a 20-digit driver's license number. Oh well. It's expired. I don't know how, that probably last 3 or 4 years. I'm not going to look up when it expired. It's expired. What did I say, 1967? Crap, it's on the back of this. My little passport bundle. I gotta go brighter on the lights here. 1968. June 10th, 68. WO 9450 2122 692290. Expired in 1971. 69. A 3-year license. Yeah. 40 Andover Road. Yeah, that's where I lived. Restrictions, corrective lens. Gotta wear glasses when I was driving. As blind as a bat. They got my birth date right. 6M. Yeah, blue eyes. Okay. It's official. I don't know why I still have my New York State driver's license, but I do. And I'm sticking to it. All these wires and stuff should be. There we go. We'll cover that with the United States Constitution. There we go. So unless any of you guys have anything else to talk about, it's Tuesday. I think I'm going to have myself a little spaghetti with my tomato sauce. I got a little bit left of that. I gave Daniel and Brennan I think a whole quart of it. I got the other quart container. Lots of fresh onions in there. Anyway, so U.S. Open. a couple of days. On Thursday they start. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 4-day tournament. Low score for 4 days. My favorite player is Scotty Scheffler. I was following him before he made his first 50 million. Yeah? Oh boy. Look at these guys standing on top of a burning car, waving a Mexican flag. Like, it's their country. They're burning our flag in our country and waving their flag in our country. There goes the U.S. flag down. And they're destroying police cars. This guy needs to be locked up. And if he's illegal, deport him. This guy's in high speed backwards. So this is like, don't these guys have a job? They're obviously not working. I got some pictures of their shenanigans. This is called, according to the Democrats, who are all lined up giving speeches today, this is what they call peaceful protesting. Look at it. LA is ablaze, and they call that peaceful. Yeah, that's what they said about Minnesota. Remember that? 4 years ago? They burned the city down. They burned the police department down. Peaceful protesting, huh? Tear gas. Well, Trump ain't putting up with that this time. No, it ain't happening. If the governors don't step in like instantaneously, Trump is jumping in there with the Department of Defense. He's gonna put the National Guard. He has the power of activating that to protect government buildings. That's what the Democrats call a loophole. It's not a loophole. That is a direct responsibility of the President of the United States, is to protect government buildings, federal buildings. Remember, we are a federal republic of states. And if the state is incompetent on taking care of its territory and managing, peaceful tranquility, remember that? Then he's jumping in there with his troops to maintain order and to lock up anybody that is disorderly. How about that for some of these words? So you got this disorderly stuff, you got the anti-Semitic, they're trying to persecute all the Jews. I mean, boy. Yeah, and the Democrats are lining up, trying to defend the indefensible. Now, why can't a Jewish student just enjoy peaceful tranquility while they study at Harvard or Columbia? Even worse. It's the pit of liberalism in education, Columbia University. And the Harvard graduates, the anti-Semitic Harvard graduates, they're tearing up their diplomas and burning them when they graduate. How would you like to be the parents of those kids? He paid $128,000 a year. Multiply that by 4. That's $500,000 after tax. You got to earn the money. before you pay taxes on it, right? Because the tuition people, they want a check. Yeah. So that's what's going on in our country. The time is 11:26 and 51 seconds. I've been talking here for 2 hours and 26 minutes. A variety of topics, including the U.S. Open, the fires in L.A., good morning, with a nice little picture I took outside the balcony. I told you a little bit about Ozempic. See, the problem with Ozempic, I'll just go quickly. The reason why it has captured the minds of the media, there's been 10 million people over the last few years that have used Ozempic, without a lot of difficulty. I'm one of them. I'm fine. I love it. I'd much rather do one shot of Ozempic a week than 30 shots of insulin a month. I'd rather have 4 shots of this once a week. Oh yeah, 7.9, 28, yeah. There's 30 shots a week of insulin or 1 shot of Ozempic. Which would you rather do? I'd rather do one of those than 30 of those. And if you miss one of those 30s, your blood sugar goes through the roof. If you're in a hurry or whatever, and you don't have your insulin with you, and now you're going out to dinner, lunch, and you haven't taken your shot before dinner or lunch, for example, then your blood sugar goes to 400. Well, that's, when you get 70 something, you've got to manage your sugar or things start falling off. I mean, like amputating legs, and you lose your circulation, you get straining of your heart, you drop dead. All these complications if you don't manage your blood sugar properly. Ozempic is magical. The ancillary benefit of Ozempic is you'll lose some weight. 20, 30, 40 pounds of weight. Well, 20, 30, or 40 pounds of weight when you're eating normally is like a magical. You don't have to go on a diet. You just eat the regular old stuff, 3 meals a day, have a nice thing of ice cream at night. No, you don't do that. You try to be somewhat, but just eating regular meals. Forget diet. Don't skip any meal. Eat your meals. Eat a regular portion, not a gigantic portion, and eat a normal meal, and you're going to have a nice. You're going to lose a nice 30 pounds over a 4, 5, 6 month period of time. Nice, gentle loss of weight. Your waist goes from, in my case, 44 to 36. That ain't bad, huh? 8 inches off the waist. Lose about, 40 pounds. 30 pounds. See, but you can't, the doctors have been inappropriately prescribing this for weight loss. Because they found out that the ancillary benefit of an Ozempic treatment of your blood sugar stability, I mean, that's why you're supposed to be prescribed. Ozempic is for blood sugar insulin control because you're diabetic or pre-diabetic. Not because you're a fatty. But it just so happens that a lot of doctors have been prescribing it for fatties. And they're losing weight like crazy. And, so that's why they came up with Wegovy. That's another branded name for semaglutide. And they put it through the FDA. And they said, now Wegovy is so that doctors can prescribe that for weight loss. And the ancillary benefit for that is it'll manage your blood sugar, and it'll help prevent major cardiovascular events. So they just underlined a different word in that big sentence. So Wegovy is for weight loss, and Ozempic is for management of blood sugar. It's exactly the same chemical, exactly the same concentration. They changed the shape of the pen, a little different delivery system. It's still a self-injection. Instead of pushing the button in the top, they got a little doodad that slides over the needle, the hypodermic needle, and you just push it against your leg, and it self-injects without you having to push the button and turn the knob. I'd rather turn the knob and push the button than press this thing so hard, and then it finally fires into you. I don't like that delivery system. They should have kept it just like this. Just change the label, and put Wegovy on there instead of Ozempic. Who are you kidding? It's exactly the same chemical. I'm a biochemist. Semaglutide right there. And I've been, and I'm taking 2 milligrams a week. Now, if the Wegovy, the full dosage is 2.4 milligrams a week. For the blood sugar treatment, 2 milligrams a week. One shot, once a week. This is a 4-shot cylinder. The needle is a 32 gauge. It's the finest needle manufactured. Really. Yeah. It's a 4 millimeter. So you see it's a real short, the depth of the injection is about that. This is the end of a ballpoint pen. I'll give you a little reference here. And 4 millimeters is right about up to that point on your, it's the diameter. Pretty good description right there. You can see. Now this is this is an expando. Reverse pinch, But that needle is so fine you can hardly see it in real life. It's like they had to paint that black so you could see it for the picture. They did something to enhance the needle. It's a very, very, it's the finest needle manufactured. Because remember, it has a hole in the middle too. So this stuff can flow through the hole. It's called subcutaneous. 1 subcutaneous injection once a week. 2 milligrams once a week, subcutaneously, which means under the skin. An injection under the skin, subcutaneous. Yep. And I guess since you have weight loss and you have, almost a little, not really ketosis, but, when you lose weight, your breath sometimes gets a little sour. So, you mouthwash 3 times a day. Big deal. It's the first I've heard of damaged teeth, dry mouth. You need to drink a lot of water, drink a lot of fluids, and you won't have a dry mouth. Or if you shut up and don't talk so much. Yeah, there it is. That's my favorite little device right there. That's my best friend, Mr. Ozempic. Thank you, Novo Nordisk. Imagine, designed, manufactured, and distributed from Norway. Whew. So I'm sure Trump is going to say, hey, Novo Nordisk, build some factories here and drop the price. The price on this sucker is like $1,250 a month. Can you imagine? $1,250 a month. So I pay with my insurance. Thank you very much, Mr. United Healthcare. My copay is $47, and they pay $1,150. Or no, they pay $1,200, and I pay $47. That's the split on the payment. And sometime when they funded $5,000 or $6,000 per drug, then all of a sudden I got to pay 20% of it. So then I got to pay $240. And Trump is supposed to be dropping the price of drugs. Well, get on Ozempic. He goes, it's about to kill me. And in Europe, you can buy this, for $190 instead of $1,200. Now, why the hell are we paying $1,200 and everyone else in the world is paying $150? Okay, that's what Trump is going to get after. They're going to equalize all. We're going to pay the lowest of whatever the lowest is. That's what we're going to pay. And no more free. We're like a bunch of suckers. So Trump's going to get after it. Good for you. A penny saved is a penny earned. And when you're retired on a fixed income, you're too old to work, they won't let you work. You gotta. I've got a couple of. I got a client two clients I'm working for. Privately. And my financial expertise. I'm helping one client put together his financial picture. And I got a beautiful result. Almost. We're almost there. So that when you look at this 2-page financial statement, so I'm doing a backwards. Like your spread statements. I don't know if people in the banking business spread statements. And you see how, last year, the year before, and the year before that, and the quarter before that, and the quarter before that. And you line it all up and you spread the statement on this spreadsheet. So you can see how the incomes have increased, decreased over, That's fine. The underwriters and, I want to see the analysis of the spread. I don't care about seeing that kind of a picture on a private individual that owns 16 different companies. And this customer I'm talking about has like 16 or 18 different affiliated companies that service each other in different ways. And so it's all owned by one guy. Him and his wife own everything. So you don't have any minority shareholders. So I'm doing a consolidated personal financial statement. So I want to upstream all this stuff into one financial statement so you can see the whole picture in 2 pages. Assets, liability, income, and expense. So show me all the incomes, show me all the expenses to the nearest 1,000, and here's the assets and here's the liabilities, you know. So I've been having the client, yesterday the client was working on the income and expense side, and he thinks he's done, but we're not done yet. I'm going to go print it out and mark it up. All right. So now it's 11:42. I'm done talking. So you all get ready for lunch, and I'm going to go into the kitchen area and grab some of my magical tomato sauce out of the refrigerator and package. I have pre-packaged 3 pounds of cooked number 12 pasta, spaghetti, and cooked al dente. So I've been eating on that all week. I think I'm down to 2 containers. It might even be 1 container. Gosh, I cooked 3 pounds of pasta in one setting, and it's almost all gone. I'm going to see if I can eat half a container. If there's a whole container, I don't think there's, maybe there's 1.5 containers left. I forget. I'm going to have half a container for lunch. Adds 5 heaping teaspoons, 6 heaping teaspoons of that spaghetti sauce. Add about 2 ounces of distilled water on that. Mix it all around. Put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. And that'll be a magnificent lunch. High in vitamin Q. It's got, you know, every portion's got a half an onion in it. A big half an onion. So we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Yep. For no more than an hour and a half, because my cleaning people are coming at 11. So they would have already been here 44 minutes. So I'm going to try, maybe I'm going to start at 8:30 to, probably be another 2-hour show. Talk about the U.S. Open. The golfers that are warming up. Interviews on how they did on their practice round. I think today and tomorrow is their practice rounds. Today is totally practice. No requirements. And I think tomorrow there's, signatures and there's some activities, so to speak, but coupled with a practice round. I'll find out today what that's all about. In the meantime, you'll have a great lunch, have a great afternoon and evening, and I'll see you tomorrow at I could be ready tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I think I'm going to be ready for an 8 o'clock broadcast tomorrow. Yep, 8 to 10:30. That'll be my 2.5 hour limit, all right? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of my instrumental, my royalty-free Epidemic Sound instrumental, without copyright. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.